All right, folks, welcome back. Steve Malzberg. Great conversations in the first half hour. Just a few minutes, we'll be joined by Avik Roy, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and contributor to Forbes.com. We're going to talk Obamacare, but we have Tony on the line from down in Georgia, listening on a great affiliate down there, who wants to talk about Lindsey Graham and Benghazi. Hello, Tony.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I got 3 quick questions about Lindsey Graham.
3 quick questions. Question number 1.
First question is, when Ted Cruz was doing his 21-hour filibuster and he really needed support, where was Lindsey Graham?
Question number 2.
Do you think there's any way in the world that Lindsey Graham would be doing this and showing all this excitement if he wasn't getting a strong primary challenge in South Carolina?
All right, rhetorical question number 3 is coming up, I presume. Go ahead.
Is Lindsey Graham married, and how long has he been married?
I have absolutely no idea how long Lindsey Graham's been married, or if he's married. What difference does it make? I'm not married anymore. I don't see where that fits in with questions 1 and 2. Anyway, all right, that was Tony from Georgia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to President Obama in his latest lie, the lie that tries to justify the lie that he said he didn't tell, which he told hundreds of times over 3.5 years. You ready? Here's cut 6.
Now, if you have or had one of these plans before the Affordable Care Act came into law, and you really liked that plan, what we said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law's passed. So we wrote into the Affordable Care Act, you're grandfathered in on that plan. But if the insurance company changes it, then what we're saying is they've got to change it to a higher standard. They've got to make it better. They've got to improve the quality of the plan that they're selling. And that's part of the promise that we made too. That's why we went out of our way to make sure that the law allowed for grandfathering.
All right, this guy is a piece of work. And by the way, for those of you not watching on Newsmax TV but listening on the radio or on a device, if you could have seen him as I did, when he was getting to the meat part of the lie, justifying or claiming that he didn't lie the first time and what he really meant to say the first time for 3 years and hundreds of times, he was reading it. He had to read. It's so obvious, and it's so as plain as the nose on your face that he had to look down and read almost verbatim with his finger moving the part that tried to excuse his lie and is really just another lie. It's pathetic. It really is pathetic. Joining us right now is Avik Roy, senior fellow, Manhattan Institute contributor at Forbes.com. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
You know what? I don't know anymore. I don't know because I'm afraid to go to a doctor because of my insurance. But otherwise, I think I'm doing pretty well. Before we get to the piece that you wrote that had everybody talking, which was that you pointed out at Forbes.com that back in 2010, the White House knew that 93 million people would lose their insurance. And the piece that you wrote about the website's crashing because I don't want you to see what the prices are. I mean, what are you thinking when you hear this guy go out there and just try lie on top of the lie?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because there's something that Jay Carney said today in his White House press briefing that he's been saying pretty much every day since this story broke a week ago, and that is this. He's saying the line from the White House is that only 5% of Americans are affected by these Obamacare regulations that prevent you from keeping your existing plan. And that's not true. First of all, Obamacare forces a lot of people with employer-sponsored coverage. I estimate it as the total number for employer-sponsored and individual persons is 93 million. One of my colleagues estimates it as 125 million. It's a big, big number. But then they say, well, those plans might be canceled, but they'll be replaced by other plans that are even better.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Yeah, now those plans are a lot more expensive. So even in the employer-sponsored market, it's not as dramatically affected as the individually purchased market, but it's still affected. So the typical employer-sponsored plan will cost about 15 to 20% more under Obamacare than it did pre-Obamacare because of all of the regulations that apply to employer-sponsored plans. And they're claiming that it's not true. So, that's my next blog post coming soon.
Good, good. Well, we look forward to it because if they're claiming it, it's a lie. I'd place that bet right now. Also, Avik, and I know you're aware of this, but I don't think the public's aware of this. I've been trying to drum it home the past couple of days. When we talk about people are going to get subsidies, you're young, you could get a policy for $50, and if you're not working and you're older or middle-aged, whatever, well, the government will pay it for you, or most of it. That doesn't include, that's only the premiums. Wait till they see the deductibles. Wait till they realize that if they go to the doctor, they're going to have to still pay out of pocket $2,500, $5,000. If it's a family, maybe $12,000 before any of that insurance pays a dime.
That's true. And look, as conservatives, free market people, in general, in theory, leaving Obamacare out of it for a second, we want people to have insurance with higher deductibles and narrower networks potentially, if they freely choose that on their own. And the thing is, people would freely choose that on their own if we had a true free market for health insurance, because products with higher deductibles and narrower networks of physicians and hospitals are cheaper. And those people want their insurance to be less expensive. The problem with Obamacare is that it raises your deductibles, it narrows your choice of doctors and hospitals, and the insurance costs 50% more. And why does it cost 50% more, or even 100% more?
Because you got to take maternity care and prenatal care and drug addiction, mental health. Right.
Like these things contain all these, are required to contain all these benefits that a lot of people don't need and wouldn't buy if it was their own free choice.
Right, absolutely.
And they believe that's better insurance because they know what's best for you.
Absolutely they do. And you know what they also know? There's a story out today that the government, that would be Barack Obama and company, have now awarded CGI Federal Inc., that's the company that created large parts of the failed website. That's the company that, according to, I believe, the Daily Caller, Tony Towns, who was Michelle Obama's Princeton buddy, is a executive vice president, senior vice president at that company. They got the no-bid contract to build most of the website, and they did such a great job that they're now signing more government contracts.
Yeah.
How come nobody has talked about the Michelle Obama, buddy connection here?
Well, there's so much stuff going on with Obamacare.
I know.
There have been a couple people who've written about the.
But the Republicans, they had Sebelius on the, on the hot seat, and why do even if it wasn't Michelle's buddy, how do you do a no bid contract, number one, and how does it go to Michelle's buddy, number two?
Yeah, there has been some coverage of this issue, and I would say, just leaving aside that particular element and just sort of stepping back a minute, one of the things that this whole episode with Obamacare has illustrated is how badly flawed in general federal contracting for IT is. And it doesn't just affect Obamacare. It affects things like Medicare fraud, Social Security disability fraud, food stamps. A lot of these programs that require you to have Medicare fraud, Social Security disability fraud, food stamps, a lot of these programs that require you to aren't abusing the system, you get a lot of waste and fraud.
Right.
And so there's a whole range, and we spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Actually, it's even more. I think we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on IT contracts with these companies that are only good at actually navigating the federal bidding process. They're not actually good at developing software.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Now let's talk a little bit about the piece you wrote, and that was the numbers we discussed earlier. You and your colleagues, 93 million Americans unable to keep their health plans under Obamacare. Ezekiel Emanuel was on with Chris Wallace, and they had it out on Sunday. And one of the things that he said, which was quite incredible, well, he's told the truth. He said that and I'm paraphrasing, that the insurance companies aren't going to be around that much longer. And that's exactly what this is all designed to do. Like Obama said, I don't think we could have a single payer in the first couple of years, but his goal, of course, is to have single payer. These insurance companies will go bye-bye.
Yeah, so, in general, Zeke Emanuel is one of the more intellectually honest commentators from the left, because he totally is in favor of rationing. He's totally in favor of restricting access to care for the elderly.
Absolutely, death
things
panels.
like
Yep,
that.
yep.
Yeah, so like he's usually the guy you can count on to slip in a line that really is the kind of the truth of how the left feels about all this. Having said that, in general, I thought poorly of his performance on Fox News Sunday. I thought he towed the administration line, trying to claim that, well, it was accurate to say people can keep their plans and things like that, which obviously isn't true. But as you said, he slipped it in there. Like actually what they want to do, and they're open about this, in health policy community conversations, that they want to abolish the old individual market, which they think of as substandard junk plans that really didn't protect you, and to replace that with the plans that they think are better, right?
Yeah.
With all these so-called protections.
Right.
Like making sure that if you ever become a drug addict, you'll be covered.
And if you don't have that in your plan, it's a subpar plan that you got from a bad Apple insurance company.
Exactly.
It is just insanity. All right, so where do we go from here? I mean, yesterday we found out from CBS News that the security flaws are just unbelievable and that they knew about it. They had to know about it, or they should be fired for incompetence, and people in the departments signed off on it, but yet Sebelius testified it was very secure, and her underling testified also the day before or so that it was very secure. And they're either lying or they deserve to be fired because they don't know. So, they're talking about Social Security numbers at risk, personal information at risk. Where does it end?
I've written a lot about this at Forbes, about the privacy violations in the Obamacare websites. And it's a serious problem. And Mike Rogers, who also chairs the House Intelligence Committee, did a great job at that committee hearing with Sebelius last week, explaining and going through all the problems and the vulnerability of the website to hackers. I think it's a serious problem. There's so many problems with this website. I would be very surprised if it was functional before the spring. Because there's just it's one of these things where, like, a lot of times in politics there's noise, right? The headline is really screamy and sensationalist, but the underlying situation is really not that, it's kind of boring. This is one of those situations where it's the opposite. Like, the headline is the website's crashing, but if you dig underneath it, everything is wrong with the underlying architecture of the system. The fact that the difficulty of interacting with the IRS data so they can figure out whether or not you're manipulating your income. The difficulty of interacting with the insurers so the insurers are getting accurate information about who enrolls. It's just a complete mess. And I mean, it seems to me like they just have to stop and rebuild it from scratch, and they don't want to do that. So, we'll see what happens. But here's the thing.
We got about 30 seconds, so Avik. Go ahead.
Here's the thing I want to leave you with. So we're talking a lot about the cancellations and how problematic that is. And a big part of it is that the cancellations are combined with the fact the website doesn't work. If the website worked and a lot of people could get subsidized coverage on the website,
then they could go to it and get it, but now they can't even do that, and people are going to be uninsured.
That's right.
Yeah, it is sick. I got to move. I got a hard break. Yep. Avik, thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you again, sir.
Sure thing.
Avik Roy, Senior Fellow, Manhattan Institute, contributor, Forbes.com. It is a mess. There are elections going on today, and I want to come back and talk a little bit about the mayoral election in New York City and how New York City's doomed on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.